Hi, Rainey.
Hi, Rainey.
Hey, Rainey.
Hi, sorry I'm a little bit late. It's 6:04. Matt Rowland will be coming along a little bit late. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll begin. Is Chris with us?
He is,
Yeah.
however, I don't see, I think she signed off and back in because I couldn't get her to unmute. So maybe
Okay.
she was having some issues.
Okay, we'll just wait a couple
Coming
minutes.
back in now.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Oh, she's in twice now.
Yeah, I see. There she goes. No audio yet.
Okay.
There we go.
Getting there? Okay.
There we go.
Having some new issues tonight. I don't know why.
Alrighty, 6:05. I'll call the meeting to order and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which
which
it stands,
stands one nation under God,
Under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice
for
for
all.
all.
Okay, thank you, Ed. If you'd be kind enough to read the preamble, I need to step away for 1 second, but go ahead.
Sure. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general laws, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 and March 23rd order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Southampton Select Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so by go to zoom.us/join. Hit join a meeting in the top right of screen. Type in meeting ID 840-7765-4496, password 619811, hit join. Please be sure to mute your device when joining in. Note to join in video meeting with cell phone, you will need to download the Zoom app from the App Store. Call-in telephone number is 646-558-8656. or by watching public access TV Charter Spectrum Channel 191. In-person attendance and public comment at select board meetings will be suspended until further notice. If you email a written public comment before the scheduled select board meeting, it'll be read at that select board meeting. If you email a written public comment after viewing something at a live televised select board meeting, it'll be read at the next select board meeting. Please send your public comments via email to selectmen@townofsouthampton.org. Please note that all public comments must be within the requirements of the policy on public comments listed in the open time for the public on the select board agenda.
Rainey needs to be unmuted.
Brady's muted.
Yeah, it takes a few seconds. It's wicked
Okay.
slow tonight.
Okay.
So
In fact,
what I was,
I'd say it takes more like about 10 or 15 seconds to actually get through.
okay, there's no regular agenda items. The only agenda item is the approval of the warrant for the town meeting. And we got the latest final version of it. And I will say that the town meeting is scheduled for Saturday, June 12th, 2021 at 9 o'clock in the morning. Please note that it's at 9 o'clock at Labrie Field on Strong Road in Southampton. And please try to get there early so that there's plenty of time for people to sign in before the 9 o'clock start. And just to let people know that there are a fairly large number of articles. And according to this list, there are 43 to be exact. So we have changed the date of the time of the meeting to allow it to be hopefully remain cooler given the weather this past weekend. So anyway, the rain date is on Sunday, June 13th, same time. Okay, so I think what we're going to do then is, I haven't had a chance to read through this final version. It came in late today, so I'm going to ask if, I don't know if, Ed, you want to share, or if the folks that are going to be reviewing and approving this want to just bring up your copy and we can go through and read them and take turns reading them? What would you like to do?
Let's see if I can get this to come up and share the screen.
Okay. If not, I have it pretty handy here. I'm happy to do the same thing.
Oh, great. It's not going to want me to open it.
Want me to see if I can do this?
Hang on, let me try one more time. Screen. No, it's telling me it can't read it for some reason.
Okay, let me bring it up. Can people see that?
Yep.
Okay, let's go with this one. All of that I've said, table of contents. I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Chris and Francine, okay? So Article 1.
You want me to read any of them? I'm happy to.
Okay, we'll have you read some of them. So the first is a presentation of certificates. That's routine. Also, we start also with the citizen petition. So let me just start by asking, that would be read by citizens, I imagine. That would not be read by us.
Correct.
Yep. And so what would Francine and Chris, what would you like to do? Do you want us to go through and read all these? I mean, I have read the ones that have already been on the book, so to speak. Did you want to read through these? We basically approve them to be on the warrant. We don't necessarily present them.
Right. No, I've gone through them today, and I've read through all of them. I haven't, just the last one that had some minor change on the stormwater one, I guess I probably haven't read, but
Okay.
everything else I read, and a couple of quick typos I had mentioned to Ed, and that's been corrected. So
Okay.
I don't know that we need to read the bylaws are going to be very lengthy to read through, frankly.
Okay. Okay, we've approved them. I haven't seen them back from the attorney. I feel like I want to at least read them through. Doesn't have to be out loud or anything, but if I'm going to put them, I think our attorney has approved them to be put on the warrant. So, so regarding Article 2, which is a citizen petition to salary to increase for the town clerk and treasurer collector. So in nowhere in this petition does it specify where the funds come from, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so I don't think we need to go through if you've already had a chance to read that through. And then the next, Chris or Francine, if you want to speak to the bylaws as a group or individually, go ahead.
Well, when I went through the ones that we did, we didn't do the one that was on planning and the wastewater, but the ones that we submitted, I don't see really any changes that the attorneys made to them. Do you, Chris?
I didn't notice anything. No, nothing popped out at me. It looked very much, as what we had suggested in draft form.
Yes.
Some of it is. Go ahead, Ed.
There's a couple of minor changes, not anything real major.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fine.
I mean, some of it was just renumbering different, sections of a bylaw as we, modified some language. And so an old section became a different number for a new section or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see anything in particular with any of the bylaws that we were working on in the Bylaws Advisory Committee.
So as we read them at town meeting, we read just the new section, or we read the section that we're replacing? How do we do this? Not to confuse people too much.
All right, Robert?
You'll read the motion.
We'll be reading the motion, which Ed will make much shorter.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Teamwork.
You got it, Robert.
That's fine. So we don't have to read the entire thing.
Not with 33 articles and in June, no.
I'm very relieved to hear that. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I think maybe it wouldn't hurt, just for the record, to say which of these bylaws are being dealt with. So it's going to be the one, the general bylaw for select board, the one for general government, the one on restriction on issuance of local licenses or permits, overnight parking, fire lanes and fire hydrants, council on aging, sidewalk clearing, community preservation. And then the amendment is the amendment to the wetlands protection article that was done last fall.
Right. But then the next two were not ones authored by us.
Right. The stormwater we did not work on.
Right.
Okay, but you have reviewed and we've approved the other ones, and the edits from the town council were minor changes to the language. There was
Correct.
Was there any content changes?
No.
Okay. All right. In that case, that brings us up to, now, can I ask you something, Robert? When you do these, we will be doing them one at a time, correct?
Plan A, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then the amendment to the article for community preservation. And then that brings us then to, that's a long one. Article 11, amendment to Article Wetlands Protection General Bylaw. Now, Ed, I think you had said that there was one additional change. Did that come through from KP Law?
Basically, the two changes you'll see here is in that 5.1 commission quorum, struck out in office. So we'll read more than half of the members of the commission must be present to conduct business and to hold a public meeting. And then the other change is in that section 12.
Right.
And and they were the AG is requiring that the fine actually be listed in the bylaw. So it is listed there, and it's per offense per day.
Yep. Okay. And just a quick question. I just want to be sure that I'm clear on when it says the in office. So if we have, say, 7 members and there's a vacancy or 2, is that intended to be the total members that should be there, or is it the total members of the actual committee as it stands at the time? If that
total members of the committee, including vacancies. So 7-member committee, even if you got 1 or 2 vacancies, the quorum is 4.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, just another general question. Obviously, the presentation of certificates is usually done by Randall. Citizen petition is done by the citizen. And then as far as the bylaw.
No. Greenie?
Yeah.
Presentation of certificates, I don't actually know if we'll have any yet. They're usually done by either the state senator or, from the state senator's office or from Representative Sabados's office.
Okay. So
it's the scholarship one that is usually Article 1. However, Randall will not be here. to give out the scholarships because he will be on vacation. So that article I removed it.
Okay, so I mean, we still want to give out the certificates, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
why-
if there are any, yes.
Well, we just found out last time that there are
Separate.
scholarships from the transfer station because we signed the declaration of his conflict.
Well, that's the scholarships, and they have mailed those out.
So we're not recognizing them at town meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So the citizen petition then will be, that will be represented by the people that are putting that forward. And then the bylaws,
Correct.
usually in the actual document that goes out to the public, it says who will speak to this. So will it be the bylaws committee, either Francine or Chris?
Silence.
It should be somebody from the bylaws committee. You're correct.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
so,
All
and
right.
we have to do each one, is that correct?
So far.
All right,
Yeah,
so Chris and I will figure out, Chris, if you're okay, and if Virginia is available, she could join
All right.
us.
so for all of these bylaws, going up to the wetlands protection, it will say, because it usually, there's someone that speaks to it. And in this case, we'll just say bylaws committee member.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and we'll
All right.
divide it up.
Okay, and then
All
the wetlands protection, is that the Conservation Commission?
Yes, I think somebody from Concom will probably speak to that.
Okay, and then what about the amendment to zoning map, zoning bylaw?
That's not us. So,
No,
Who actually will speak to that, Ed?
Usually it would be like someone from the planning board, maybe the chair. And I believe that the petitioner will be there. So I will get their names so Robert can vet them.
Okay, I'm gonna just try to go to where that is. What page is, anybody on that page?
it's page 19.
19, okay, hang on one second.
yeah, it's above the stormwater thing.
No, oh, it is? I'm at,
Yeah.
page 19 is, there's no beginning of a bylaw on page 19 on what I'm looking at.
Right there, right there.
Okay,
Stop.
there it is, okay.
Article 12.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, people. I'm afraid I forgot I was sharing it. Anyway, so is this okay, this is the one that's the property that they're requesting the zoning change to.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
that,
173, 175 College Highway, which is next to whether you call the old Opa,
Yeah.
the old JP's, which is now the church.
Mhm.
So that will be the petitioner will speak to that one then, or?
As long as the moderator will let them to.
Well, it's the planning board that's introducing this article, so they'll speak, and
Uh-huh.
then the petitioner, and then,
Will speak.
anyone
Okay.
opposed.
all right, let me ask a question. I thought that the planning board was not, I mean, didn't they have a tie vote? So therefore, they were not putting it forward for the voters, or then the tie vote
Te-
prevented them from, tell me about it.
The tie vote is neither an affirmative action or a negative action. It's actually, the meaning is actually they're taking no position, but they would still present the article.
And
Okay.
they can explain the history when they present the article.
Okay, I think that's totally fine so long as it's presented objectively, because I don't know that that happened at the hearing. So if they didn't have the vote to endorse it and it won't say endorsed by planning board, then my request would certainly be that it be presented in a very objective way. And then what has to happen for the petitioner, landowner, to be able to be recognized, Robert?
Well, once they're vetted, they'll speak after the planning board, or I'll call them to speak after the planning board introduces the motion.
Okay, so it won't say endorsed by planning board, it will just
No,
be presented.
Simply giving the four corners of the history of the hearing, that there was a hearing, what the vote was, why, and simply the facts.
Okay. All right, so that brings us up to number 14, I think.
Yes.
Well, yeah, the stormwater? No.
The budget one, I think.
Stormwater would have been Article 13.
13.
Is there a significance in the order of this?
Overall, are you talking like 14, 15, and 16?
Overall?
No, I just pretty much followed a template that has been followed in the past.
Are citizen petitions always put first?
From most of the town meetings I've seen, they seem to have been up front. And I also felt that because it does have an impact on the budget, if it passes, that it probably should be done sometime before the budget comes up.
Well,
And then
I
what?
would think just the opposite, or at least in conjunction with the budget discussion. Because for some people, they won't hear a single word about the other article about the operating budget, and will just somewhat disconnected have a petition around the budget. So, but if this is a protocol that's already established, or a procedure that's the way it's supposed to be, it
Well,
does.
I mean, yeah, it's.
Why would
I
it be
wouldn't
under budget
say-
financial items?
It's not cut in stone, but this is our tradition, and we can change it, but this is our tradition, so we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah, but the implications, if it passes, have a real impact on, you know, the subsequent articles. And I think if they're discussed as kind of one unit so that people can follow the conversation and really, you know, look at how it's affecting us, I think I'm in favor of seeing it
Well,
move to, you know, to that same area of the warrant.
I understand, and it's a good point you've made. Just to reiterate what I've shared historically, this citizen petitions are not mandates for the select board. And my example was somebody could get up and want to paint the town hall yellow, and everybody votes in favor, majority, but the select board at their next meeting can discuss it and not go forward with painting the town hall yellow.
Okay.
Great.
Robert, Robert, in this particular case, because it happens to deal with two elected officers rather than just a regular town employee, and we do set the compensation rates for our elected officers. In this particular case, legal opinion is this would be binding.
Okay, I understand. That's not been discussed before. Fine.
So my recommendation would be to move this one to perhaps right before the operating budget or right after.
Well, I know what you're saying. I'm going to bring up one point. However,
then you might
it's a
invite
citizen
someone-
petition. It's
Yeah.
not a budget item. So personally, I think you're mixing two categories.
Of course, it's a budget item.
No, it's a
How can
citizen's,
you say
it's
it's not a
brought
budget item?
forward as a citizen's petition.
to change the budget or to impact the budget.
It would impact the budget, you're correct.
Then I think it should be under the general heading of budget and financial articles.
These are good points, but something to remember, if the citizens petition comes after the budget, then it might invite someone to want to increase the line item in the budget then and there and not trust the success or lack thereof of the citizens petition.
No, that's a good point, Robert.
Then have it be the first one here.
Yeah, so it works the way it is.
Or before, have it be
It's
number
the select-
16.
It's the select board's budget, so whatever you vote to do, I will do.
Well, I just want to hear your opinion about it too, but to me, it just seems like perhaps it belongs as number 16.
We can do that.
What do you think, Chris and Francine? It just seems like it's kind of like out of the blue. It's a financial item that definitely will impact the budget. All the financial items are put together. It just seems.
Yeah, I guess my question is, are we expected to respond to it right then and there? Or do we have time? Because if we have time, I would leave it where it is. If we're expected to respond, I guess I would think about moving it so we have the whole picture.
What do you mean if we're expected to respond?
Well, if, he said, as Ed just described to us, whatever town decides becomes binding. The select board cannot override that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, that's for this particular case because it happens to be 2 elected officers.
That's a good point.
If that same petition was for 2 people and said town administrator and highway superintendent, it would not be binding on the select board.
Yeah, I understand that part.
Yeah, I understand that part. I just don't, that's not, I think the point and how that actually makes a difference in terms of the order of it. I'm just thinking that we're going to be discussing the budget. We're going to be discussing, the total amount. We're going to be discussing the override. There's a lot of things we're going to be discussed relative to the operating budget. And that article is approved, then that same amount, in the absence of another budget proposed, will, I think it's, to me, it just seems like it's a financial article.
With the weighing in by the law firm, I would lean towards keeping it, changing the order and keeping it as a financial article to deal with and not separate as a citizen's petition because it's elected officials. If it wasn't, leave it where it was. But since not, I subscribe to changing the order.
Because it is legally, because it's binding.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, does it make sense then? Let's go back then. So the first budget items are housekeeping. We're transferring the percentages to the different funds, free cash. So the 10, so who would speak to these? You, Ed, in terms of the percentage in the bylaw says that we put X number of dollars or percent from free cash to capital stabilization, and then the same for operational stabilization, and then to the OPB fund.
Yes.
So, okay. And then I would think logically that it would be Article 16.
Well, all the subsequent articles move, all the preceding articles move up 1 because we just eliminated moved Article 2. So everything gets renumbered.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That would make that 16 then, right?
yes.
Okay.
So it'd come after the housekeeping issues and before we actually start discussing the
Right.
budget.
Right.
I mean, I would agree that it seems a little bit disconnected now, especially when we go through 8 or 9 bylaws
Yeah.
in between time. I mean, you've got one thing in your head that is financially related, and then you go off topic into something else for a lengthy discussion, and then you come back to financial issues. So I would favor it being more grouped with the financial issues as well.
And does it make sense to do it as before 17, after 17, but before the override discussion? Before?
Before, I think.
Yeah.
All right, then let's move that there. And then article, whatever, the next one is the annual operating budget for FY22 to see if the town will vote fixed salaries of all elected officials for the FY22 for the period. I'm not sure why it starts that way.
Yeah. I mean, fix the salaries of all elected officials.
Not sure why that.
I mean, besides the two we're talking about in the citizen's position, who else is elected and paid and salaried? I mean, that gives the impression that, you know.
That's standard boilerplate language that's been digested for years and years.
Well, you know what's confusing is not only does it seem like, okay, you support either the one before or this one, and I don't think that's the case. Also, to fix salaries makes it seem like they're not getting a raise when they are. So I guess that, to me, is a little bit deceiving.
Well, that may be true or not, but procedurally, I would recommend it's used in the past at something that a motion can correct if and only if necessary with advice from the law department. But for now, for tonight, this is something the verbiage we've always used, right or wrong. And again, the motion can correct the language if necessary.
Yeah. Remind me, as we present the motion, do we not go through and give a subtotal that, you know, general government subtotal is X, or general fund rather, and then public safety total, and then culture and recreation subtotal?
Yes, the moderator divides the question, and we discuss each section of each budget and vote on them separately.
Okay.
Okay, question. Why is it termed like that? It seems like this one, first of all, there's a duplicate and further, so you can get rid of that duplication after the,
Yep.
And then it says to raise and appropriate 18,289,262 monies as identified in the town's operating budget from taxation, 17,500 from WPAT loan, and 100,000 from ambulance fees. Only one comma, as attached for fiscal year 2022 or taken. So this doesn't, this is only, they only discuss revenue, right? This article doesn't.
No, that's language that we added last year when the audit firm told us that by having that separate WPAT article and the separate article to transfer funds into for the ambulance operating budget from the ambulance receipts, that we're actually double appropriating. So they asked us to use this language in the article, and then we would not have to do the other two separate articles. So it's incorporated in here.
Okay, actually, that
these
wasn't my
other
question.
items are coming in to be used.
So my question really wasn't that. My question was, so this article's, an operating budget is revenue and expenses. So this presumes that they're equal in some way and that there's no discussion of actually expenses. So it doesn't say, this says raise and appropriate 18 million, but it doesn't say, bottom line, doesn't say anything about this being, I mean, it's only about revenue here, and that's typical?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is basically, other than adding that WPAT loan and ambulance, 100,000 from ambulance fees to it, is the exact verbiage
Okay,
we used in 2018, just with different dollar amounts.
okay, all right. Any questions about this article?
No, and then we go to the Appendix A and walk through, right, the different sections, Robert. And
Yeah.
then we come back to this one when we get to the next one. Okay.
So you go through each category: general government, emergency services, culture, yeah, okay.
And we vote on each separately, and by doing that, we have no need to vote on the entire budget when we're done.
Okay.
Okay,
Mhm. Right.
okay, and then the next one is the supplemental or override article. Just a question, going back, Article 17, has the Finance Committee chimed in on all of these?
No, they're going over them tonight.
They're meeting
Okay.
now, I believe.
Okay,
We're meeting right now, yes.
who would speak to this Article 17? It might be a different one, but the annual operating budget. Each section, would it be one of us?
Vicky?
It could be
Yes.
someone from the select board, could be myself.
Okay, okay. Just want to make sure that as we're going through this, we're identifying who would be the spokesperson for the motion.
Well, the motions are usually read by the select board.
Right,
And then once basically Robert opens it up to the floor, then usually the speaker on the topic would start it off.
correct.
You know, whether
So I
that
just
be-
wanted to be clear.
And who is the speaker on the topic is the question.
Yeah, that's what I want to, as we're going through, I just wanted to make sure that we're clear about who the speaker, and if it's select board, then we'll just, between us, we'll take care of it. I was just wondering, I just want to make sure that as we go through it, that it's clear who's speaking on each article.
Our go-to person was the town accountant who's no
know,
longer with
I know.
us. So
Right,
everybody else needs to pick up the slack
Okay.
this coming meeting.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
And my question then is it appropriate for any of these to be addressed by anyone on the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee can weigh in on every part of the budget if they so choose.
Mhm.
Normally, when they approve it, they don't add anything extra.
Right,
It's when
understood.
they don't approve it, they sometimes will give a reason why.
Okay. I was just making the assumption they were approving it and they would just speak to the article, but, okay.
I expect them to be kind of quiet because they don't have seasoned experience
Right.
speaking for the article, so they may be,
Okay.
forgive me, Finance Committee, but they may be sitting on their hands for this meeting.
Okay.
So most of these, Ed, will you be the one doing this presentation, or
Probably.
in lieu of the accountant idea? That's right. So, or maybe Matt will chime in on some.
Yeah, anyone who has the.
I'll list it out as town administrator / select board.
All
Okay,
right.
that sounds good. And just remember, in this particular article, it references Article 10. So if that changes, that will have to change too.
Mhm.
Right, and I missed that one too, so yeah, I will have to change that. So, because in this particular case, yeah, it's actually Article 17
Yes.
that should be referenced.
Any questions about 18? Okay, I guess 19 is the,
Oh, well, I guess the question I have, it's not part of this, but usually for clarification purposes for people who are voting, is there any way of estimating the impact if this passes on property taxes. Remember, we put a schedule out before.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to calculate that.
Yeah, I just came from an assessor's meeting and Martha had done a preliminary calculation. Our current rate is $15.97, and it looks like she was going to recheck the figures given the amount of the override for sure. But it's going to be somewhere around 88 to 90-ish cents more per thousand is what it was looking like. But she's going to double check the figures and be sure she has the right amount of the override to do that. But it's somewhere less than $1 impact per thousand. So maybe somewhere around 90 cents per thousand.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
So we're talking about, I'm just trying to figure out. So we'll have in those examples different, like 250, 400,000. Can we do that?
Well,
Yeah, I might even do it at every 100,000.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Is that something that we should have as a handout, guys? Is that something that the finance committee would do or we would do and then we would have as a handout to show people what the impact is?
Wasn't Matt collecting that data?
I don't know if he was, I don't know. I know he said he
I
wanted
don't think
to.
he was collecting. I don't think he was collecting that type of data. But
No,
like I said,
no.
I can put that together.
All right, he was collecting, I think, what would be lost
At the department level, yeah.
at the department
Right.
level.
Right.
So when we can, yeah, but I think that would be very helpful to have it be based on various,
Yeah. So if we had a handout, how soon do we have to get it to Robert?
I haven't announced it yet, but it's generally, our town meeting's going to be Saturday, so it would be probably Wednesday at noon before the town meeting. So this gives me an opportunity to check in with anybody that may need some corrections or discussions.
Okay.
So the 9th, roughly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
all right, the next is the transfer station enterprise fiscal FY22 budget. Would that also be presented by town administrator or select board, or would that be something Randall would speak to?
Normally I'd have Randall speak to it, but since he won't be there and be on vacation, it's one of those items that I'll probably have to pick up the slack on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ed, would you mind, since I got confused on reading this one, why the totals would not be the same? The 201 in written form versus the math?
They actually do balance now.
Okay, I
That
thought you
was
said,
that was one of those things that Randall and I made a last minute change to this so we can rent a soil separator in there. And when I had put it back together, I used fuzzy math and it didn't add up.
So to have the 201,530 versus the 211,530 is okay.
They actually add the 211,530 now.
Right, but so the narrative part doesn't have to say 211?
Oh, nuts.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I got to change that. Thank you.
Any questions about that?
No,
No.
that's okay. That's clear now. I was confused earlier, yeah. And I think the water enterprise, that maybe got corrected then. No, well, but yeah. So here,
Probably not. Probably, and I may not have in the written part, so I will double check it.
okay. But here,
868
you
is
told me
the accurate.
the debt,
Yeah.
services don't get included in this, is that right? Or
What's that?
did you tell me that the debt service does not get included in the math, or it does? So the
It does.
It does, okay. So 868, 800, okay. Really?
Okay.
So it should say 868, 800, correct?
In the narrative.
In the narrative. Any questions
Yeah.
about the water enterprise? Now, will the water department speak to that?
Yes, they will.
Okay. And I imagine the same for funding for the water department replacement box truck?
Yes.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, we just on back on 20, we definitely need to check the math there, because guys,
Yeah.
832 plus 93, you're already at 900, so.
Yeah, because if you add
No, it's the 830, it's the 832 plus the 35,864.
and you back out the overhead.
I'm sorry, okay. That's what I was meaning before, okay.
Okay.
Got it, thank you.
But yet, when you add it up to come up with a total above, the 93,000 is part of the 868.
Yep.
So that's what's confusing, I think.
Could be. I will double check all that.
All right, so you're telling us, though, that the total amount is 868, 800. That's what we're voting on, right?
868, 800, correct.
Okay. So the retained earnings account, I imagine they'll explain that. And the enterprise fund is coming
They
from
should.
water. Yeah, okay. Are there any rules
And-
around what that's able to be used for?
As long as it's directly associated with the water enterprise fund, or in the case of the transfer enterprise fund, the same thing. They are able to utilize those retained earnings to balance their budget.
Can I ask a question? How does this 93,964 of indirect that goes from the water department to the general fund, how does that show up on the revenue report?
I don't know if it shows up on the revenue report. It does show up on the revenue calculations.
Okay, so this is already part of what we're figuring is the FY22 income.
Correct.
It's not this 93.9. Okay.
So the water department would be the one speaking to how old the truck is, et cetera, that they're trying to replace, right?
Right, exactly. They've had some issues with this particular truck, and then the fact that the vendor that they purchased it from can no longer service it. It makes matters even harder for them to get it repaired when they need it to be serviced.
Mm-hmm.
But they're aware that they'll be speaking to these, and they should come prepared to let us know that, or let the public know the details.
I will remind them.
Okay, the next is the funding for water department asset planning grant.
And just
Yeah.
for my ignorance, what does that do? What is the planning grant all about?
Well, they use it for their, it's their asset planning. So in the water department, shall we say, the assets can be anything from something that's visible, like the water tank, to the well pumping station building, to the new pumping station building, but it's also all of the infrastructure that we don't see that's underground. So the water piping and whatever. So they utilize this grant to help them plan for the future and what water lines may need to be replaced and when.
Okay.
Okay, next on the paper here is Article 23, transfer from ambulance receipts to the ambulance debt account for FY21. So this is a transfer of receipts to cover expenses.
It's actually to cover the debt for the ambulance payment that comes due during fiscal year 21.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Does that mean it'll be paid off then?
What's that?
This is the last payment on it?
No, it is not.
Okay,
I believe there's one more,
all right.
and that'll be paid off.
Any question about that?
No.
And now, who will speak to that? Will that be you, Ed, or would that be the fire chief? I mean, it's a,
It'll probably be me.
okay. Funding for the highway plow dump truck. It's unfortunate that Randall won't be here to speak to this.
Yep.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of 261. Just to purchase a single axle dump truck with plow and sander body.
And the motion on this one and the next one has more detail in it than the actual articles. And they were both put together by bond counsel since we're borrowing, and KP Law has approved them also.
Okay, so likely you'll speak to this one, Ed?
Yes.
24, 25, yeah.
And will this be the Greenway Committee speaking on this next one?
It'll probably be me because it's more about the debt. If anybody has any questions about the Greenway itself, the Greenway Committee is able to speak to that.
Okay.
Okay, so the next ones are all the capital ones. So I imagine the town clerk. Do you think that would be people from the capital committee, or would be the actual representative proposing it? So the next two would actually be the town clerk?
Yes.
Now, does the finance committee endorse these articles? I think they do, right?
Yes, they would.
Okay. So it would say something similar to approved by capital committee and finance committee?
Recommended by.
Recommended.
Recommended, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
When I develop that next warrant that's got the summaries and motions in it, those pieces will be added along with the summaries and the motions.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Would this Article 28 be, would the library director be speaking to that, or you, Ed?
Could be either one of us. I will list out the library director as speaking
Okay.
to that, and
Okay.
then I can supplement it.
Okay.
It seems like looking at those two articles, we'd better be ready to speak to the reason why the two boilers would cost such a different price.
Different systems.
Okay.
One, yeah.
How about number 30?
I guess out of the capital, well, who else is going to talk? Randall's not here.
Ed in Randall's absence.
Yeah. I've already told Randall that he's got to give me all of his notes and summaries on this stuff.
Yep.
Maybe he's going to need to do a little flyer and photo like he usually does too, especially if he won't be here. It might be helpful.
Yep. Any questions about 30?
So, no, okay. No.
Now, I know he produced a kind of a equipment replacement schedule. Do you know if we're on target, Ed?
Oh, I know for a fact that no, we were behind.
Okay.
But, I think it would be helpful from a voter perspective to have some understanding of why every meeting we seem to come up with vehicles like this that seem to be large expenses. So to have a sense of, the what do I say? The inventory replacement list somehow for this would just be good information for the town in general to understand that we're trying to get repairs every year, and repairs are costing us more, and therefore at some point in time we've got to get back on our actual acquisition schedule for our various vehicles. And that yes, we did get a new one whatever a year ago or 2 years ago, but this is another one because that one is old, etc. So I don't know, we've got to do a good job about explaining how we schedule our vehicle replacement, the fleet that we have, on no matter whether it's police, fire, or highway, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, because some of the stuff is 20, 30 years old, if I recollect. So I think the more information people have, the more inclined they are to understand this is a necessity.
Yeah, I agree with you. Article 31 is a water line replacement. I know, Robert, I believe you're on the cemetery commission.
I'd like Ed to speak on this. He knows the details.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But probably basically, at least since I arrived here, I don't know how much before the water lines in the cemetery have been an issue. They're old galvanized lines. They break easily. So actually last year, one of the water commissioners, Joe Slattery, went out and actually looked at an option of having a company come in and run irrigation lines like you use for water sprinklers to replace the galvanized lines. So this actually comes from the quote that they had provided to Joe to get that water running again in Center Cemetery, and hopefully running so they can turn it on in the springtime and just leave it on so it runs, basically until they have to shut it off in October.
And Judith Miller Conlon, the chair of the Cemetery Commission, will be there speaking on this article.
Mhm. The next articles have to do with the various repairs at Norris School. In the past, I know the lead custodian has spoken to them. I don't know if that's what the expectation is. Or John Lumbra, who's the chair of this local school committee.
I would guess it would be, the chair of the school committee, and then if you wanted to defer that to the head custodian, Mr. Lavelli,
Okay.
that's fine too.
Any question about the school ones?
Yeah, Rini?
Yeah.
Thank you. We did a little combination a year ago for our annual where we took some articles and combined them. And off the top of my head, I think 2 were from the school. Looking at these 4 articles, I'm wondering, or is it 5?
Yeah, looks like
I'm wondering if we can't, or let's have a discussion now, can't consider combining them because of the fact that we're outdoors. This is going to be a long meeting, no matter which way we look at it. And there might be some those presenting each article separately. So my thought would be combining these 5 into 1.
I think maybe the first 4 because they all come from capital stabilization, but the last one is from free cash.
Right. So we could keep that separate and combine the 4.
Yeah. There are actually 6, so it would be 5 and 1.
Okay, I don't have a copy here, so I can't see that.
You're right. Article and this page 32 through 36.
Right.
Are capital stabilization, and then the last one is free cash.
Free cash. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. It would.
Because we're also talking about safety being a common denominator for each one, and it would be somewhat redundant, tripping over the carpeting, tripping over the sidewalk, the mortar.
Well, except when we did that, I think it was last year, the items were related. Like the stove and the vent for the stove, and I don't remember, other than probably a couple years ago when we actually combined a number of items into a borrowing question so we could actually afford them. I don't remember really combining unlike items.
Okay.
So
And the only 2 I can see in there that are like are the 2 masonry.
Yeah, 34 and 35.
Yeah, the 2 masonry ones could easily be combined.
That would help. Any help here would be great.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, then yes, I would do 34 and 35 if we have to keep the rest of them separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we could look at door closers and Venetian blinds as you're closing the windows and closing the doors. So.
Yeah, except with that, those 2, you got 2 different funding sources.
And
Otherwise, I'd love to do that one too.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And these figures have been checked, the amounts?
Checked how?
I mean, they were just carried over from the previous discussion from capital, right?
Yes.
Okay, anything on the Norris articles? We can jump down to the stormwater management permit expenses.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the revolving funds, we just have to renew each year the amounts.
Yeah.
The spending limits, correct.
Spending limits, that's what I meant.
Oops. And I notice I have to change that fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22 in that one.
Yes.
Where do you have, see, where does it say?
In the chart itself.
Top right-hand column
Oh, I
of the
see.
chart.
Yeah. And this is staying at 31,000 for the van?
Yes. Haven't seen any inclination that it would need to go above that at this point.
That was probably fairly underutilized this past year, just because people stayed in.
Hmm.
True.
Everybody good with the revolving accounts?
Yep, I think so.
All right, now we have the community preservation projects. Now these, and the revolving accounts would be addressed by, I mean, I don't think would have to. I think, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? And the funding for the MS4 ed or select board, right? Because Randall won't be here.
It'll be me.
Okay, and then community preservation is usually done by Virginia or
Yes,
one of the representatives of
Correct.
the committee, so we wouldn't read or speak to them, correct?
right.
Right.
And usually the finance committee does not weigh in on these.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
So the first is the disbursements.
Mhm.
Correct.
What's this? The Palmer Meadow land purchase is only a memo item and will fulfill the 10% requirement for open space reserve? What does that mean?
Correct. The
Oh,
bond payment,
Yep.
the borrowing on that is $55,150 for fiscal year 22. And that it exceeds the 10% requirement for going into that particular category.
Okay. I realized it as soon as I said it. Is this supposed to be 50 FY22 also?
No.
No, it's beginning July 1st, 21. So
Okay, that's
why the citizens petition, and we can't change it because it's a citizens petition picked, describing the fiscal year with ending on June 30th, 2022. I don't know. I don't ever recall anyone referring to the fiscal year as ending on a date rather than beginning on a date, but that may be just me.
Everybody fine with 40? And then the
Yeah.
rest of these would be addressed by CPC, funding for the Open Space Committee for Educational Barnes Aquifer pamphlet.
Mhm. Yep.
And then Edwards Public Library to continue placing historical resource materials on their website.
Mhm.
And I noticed that, at least in this one, I'm going to have to look at my master, is that my top paragraph from the signing page is snuck up under Article 43 and should be down on the next page. So I'll have to look on my master and see if it's that way too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the instructions to the constable, right?
Right.
Any questions on 43?
No.
No.
And again, I imagine it would be CPC
Yes.
with any, and I guess that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Robert, any comments you want to make about this before we vote on the articles?
Yeah, we got plenty of time before midnight. You can add 10 more articles. We'll make it 53.
No.
And why did I ask you?
Since you asked.
It was,
You did due diligence tonight. We took our time going over them, and I applaud the board and Ed in working together on this. This is quite an effort, and after you sign it, it's out of your hands.
Okay. Chris or Francine, do you have any comments, questions on the warrant?
No, other
No, I
than
don't-
what we've discussed, in
Yep.
terms of adjustments that we'll be making, that Ed will make, I'm fine.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So we need to sign this by tomorrow afternoon, or?
well, by my calculations, I would say if you sign by Wednesday, we're good.
Okay,
Okay.
You concur, Robert?
Better look at the calendar.
I mean, you've got the date of May 25th, so I just wanted to be sure. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
okay. I move that we vote to approve the annual town meeting warrant for Saturday, June 12th, 2021, with the recommended amendments to the text that we made here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Recommended edits, okay. Any, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, no, I think with the recommended edits and reordering and combining in at least one case, so
Yep.
it's going to take a little while to make sure we've got it all done. But yeah, let's do it right.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
I guess the question is to Ed, will this be in its final form when we come to sign it tomorrow or let's say Wednesday?
Let's make it Wednesday. Be sure.
It will, as far as I'm concerned, and it may be midnight tonight when it goes into your email boxes, but I will complete
Okay.
these changes tonight and back
Okay.
out. So
All right, thank you.
And then they'll be in the select board box for signature tomorrow, Wednesday? Okay,
yeah,
Good.
well, usually what I'll do, I'll put them in there because it's easier, and I don't have to remember to put them in for like the nighttime for you to come in and get them and sign them, Rini. Sometimes I'll just keep them in my office and then at the end of the day put them in the mailbox. But lately I'll just probably put them in the mailbox, and if someone comes in during the day to sign it, I'll just go get them for them.
okay. Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Tishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Groden, aye. So I wanted to just get back to the agenda to see if there were any comments about the actual meeting itself in terms of the planning.
Okay.
Few changes from what we did last year. Obviously, we're going to be after the May 29th removal of the governor's restrictions, but we'll still be before the June 15th end of the state of emergency. So the field will be set up just about the same way as it was last year, with the chairs being set for social distancing. Masks will be, shall we say, requested or an option rather than mandatory. The committee did just about unanimously recommend the change to 9 a.m. from the 10 a.m. start, which also under this particular article, I will ask you to actually officially vote to do it at 9 a.m. Let's see, we decided that last year we had 120 chairs. We bantered the number around. We came back with, everyone thought that 180 chairs would be a better number, and who knows how many will show up with the override on there. So, but they figured that the turnout would be better this year than last year. We'll bring in, there is one regular porta potty at Labrie Field, so we will bring in a one handicap porta potty to go along with that. We did, because we don't know exactly what the weather will be. Will it be a mid-70s degree day, or will it be one of these 90-degree days that's been popping up? So we will go forward and find someone to donate some water so that the fire police can have a cooling station or a water station for handouts for the meeting. And I think that's, Robert was there, so he, if I missed any of the changes from, what we did previously last year, I mean, the check-in will start 1 hour before the meeting starts, so it'll start at 8 a.m. We have done assignments as far as signs and lining for the parking lot, or the outfield area for the chairs. So I think we're pretty much, we'll have one more meeting before the actual annual town meeting, but I think we're in a good place.
You covered the changes well, Ed. One thing I might add, though, we will continue from the last two, from last year outdoor town meetings, is that they will remove the protective covering at the microphone after each person speaks.
Okay, you're going to still do that?
Yeah, because it's safety. I mean, a lot of annual town meetings that were held this past couple of weeks made or mandated that the voters, when they left their car, wore a mask all the way until they got into the field to sit down, and in some towns kept the mask on until they approached a microphone where they took the mask off to speak. And so we're not mandating mask wearing, but I think the proximity of speaking at a microphone is something we need to carry on from our last two outdoor meetings.
Okay. Now that sounds good. Now, if it is one of these excruciatingly hot days, is there a plan to have like a dead stop time, regardless of where we are, and then resume, or we're just going to hang in there?
Well, it's up to the town. It's up to the people. Someone can stand up and say they want to adjourn the meeting to tomorrow, Sunday, and all in favor, and we vote on it, and then we show up the next day, Sunday at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
That's quite feasible.
All right.
Any other questions about the actual plans for the day?
No, I think just in terms of getting the word out so that people realize that we're starting an hour earlier, because I think a lot of the notification on Facebook, the signs in front of Town Hall at one point anyway, were saying 10 o'clock. So we need to really be sure we get that word out broadly.
And you have that reverse, that the calls that you can make out and just leave messages. That might be a good use of it at this time, since we've changed the time, to remind people.
We also use it for the elections and the town meetings.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good. And I don't think that many people are setting that 10 o'clock in stone so many weeks away from the town meeting itself. So I think we're good. And the committee is great. I mean, everybody kicked in. We've done it. No sense in fixing it if it isn't broken. So I'm quite pleased, thrilled.
Good.
Good. All right. So you wanted to vote on the timing of the meeting?
Yep, but someone,
Yes, just, I'm sure somewhere along the way, along with the date, the select board voted on the 10 a.m. start. So just to make sure everything is copacetic, I would ask you to make the motion in the second and vote to actually have the annual town meeting start on the 12th at 9 a.m.
Okay. So in the interest of time and weather, I move that we start the annual town meeting on June 12th at 9 a.m. as opposed to 10 a.m.
I'll second that.
any other discussion? All in favor?
Fishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
Roden, aye.
Thank you.
Robert has his hand up.
Yeah, so Robert, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder that town moderator annual town meeting article information session will be Thursday, June 3rd at 7 o'clock, where yours truly and my deputy moderator, Carl Keener, will attempt to read 43 articles live for Channel 191 with Ed in the room on deck.
All right. Bring your popcorn. It's going to be exciting.
Good.
Okay. Is there any other agenda items that can't wait until the next regularly scheduled select board meeting, which is June 1st?
No.
No. I wanted to mention two things. First of all, I did finally get in touch with John Martin. I guess either the email wasn't working, but I did text him, and he's very appreciative of the vote to dedicate the annual town report to him. And he has deferred. I asked him if he had a picture, and I did happen to mention that I saw a really nice picture of him that Robert had put out in the Southampton News. And he said, well, Robert's the professional, so let's go with his picture. So Robert did agree to forward that to Ed for inclusion in the annual town report.
He has two separate images already. I sent them out right away.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And do you need anything from us, Ed, in terms of the write-up or anything, or is it usually just because of his service to, the select board or various other town boards and departments?
If any of you know anything about John that you want to put together and send, I know Judy would be very appreciative of any help she can get as far as that goes.
I think I had sent something a while back when we were, speaking about recognizing him, and I think I mentioned about his, helping with various, when he was looking into the building inspector and the accountant and finance committee. I think I had actually put an email together about him a while back. Does anybody remember that?
I'll go back and take a look.
When he was leaving, yes.
Yeah. So I can certainly go back also and look for that. Anything else? Any other items? The only other thing is to request to send me the name and number of our charter spectrum customer service person. If you could just remember to do that. Anything else?
Sorry about that. I have forgotten.
Oh, I know. There's a lot going on. Anything else?
No, just I think for our next agenda, whenever we next meet, do we talk about possibility of reopening town hall?
Yeah. Yep. I think we mentioned this last time, and I think we had a discussion, I think at our last meeting. So I believe that will be on the agenda. And is there anything you want to say about that now?
No, I mean, I think people are getting a little ready to do that. I mean, it seems like people are, watching what's going on in surrounding communities, and that seems to be opening up, in various neighboring towns. So I think people would be ready to have that done in person before we have our election for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was probably just about it was a major topic of the department heads meeting last week, and I would say that most of staff, if not all the staff, are know it's coming and are acceptable to it. So some have said that, okay, I will put the mask on if somebody comes in my office, which is fine. One of the offices said they'll continue to do contact tracing sheets, which actually was a good, in my mind, a good idea. So I think we're there. And then just to remind you, the meeting on the 15th, unless something changes very suddenly, through our legislature, the select board meeting on the 15th will more than likely be the last Zoom meeting we will do, and we'll be having to change over to personal meetings again, or in-person meetings again, because right now that option does disappear on the 16th with the end of the state of emergency order.
And is there a sense from you, Ed, there are two dates that have been mentioned by the governor. One of them is the opening of business beginning May 29th. And I think, that was obviously pretty intentional relative to Memorial Day weekend. But then the state of emergency is being lifted June 15th. So in the space of the 2 weeks there, is your understanding that there are different recommendations based on the 29th and the 15th?
Not really. I think there's probably more legal, I don't know if you say ramifications, implication, effects from the state of emergency ending on June 15th, for things like the change to the open meeting law that allowed Zoom and what have you. But as far as particular, restrictions go, I don't think there's a big or even a relatively small change between May 28th and June 15th, at least from what I've seen at this point.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Chris. We'll make sure that on the June 1st agenda, we'll be discussing the reopening of Town Hall, which will likely follow some point soon after that meeting. And would you say, Ed, that other than individual choices relative to mask and so forth and case tracing, which I think is a really good idea, are there any more preparations that are needed in terms of plexiglass and cleaning supplies and any of that?
No, I mean, and everyone here, it's interesting. Everyone here has the same thoughts about, the plexiglass or to some extent the masks. The plexiglass will stay up. And we all realize that, it's one thing for, COVID and what have you, but also there's an awful lot of us that didn't have the traditional winter cold or have a winter flu last year. So, we see some advantages there. We still have plenty of masks. We still have plenty of cleaning solution. One of the things I made clear is that, okay, just because we reopen, doesn't mean that we ignore some of the things we've done over the last year. I would still expect the custodian to do the daily cleaning, to wipe the high touch or contact areas down, with our alcohol solution to kill the germs, at least through the fall, if not longer, and keep the same schedule going. From there, we'll just have to take a look at some of, the other spaces as far as if there are still any regulations. I don't, for inside as far as capacities in rooms, if they're less than what they normally would be, if we're going to use those rooms, whether it's for meetings, for other items. How does the Council on Aging come back in? And I know for some of their activities that they can do outside, they're going to keep doing them outside rather than bringing them all inside. But are there activities that even though they're open, they may have certain number requirements on the number of individuals that are allowed in the room? I know for a while the library is going to stay to not open every day, but they have been utilizing their plan of a couple days a week of people coming in and browsing and whatever. So I know they're going to slowly, gradually, get back into things too. So I think you'll see a little bit of uniqueness here and there, but overall, I think the most important thing is, we have to still be cautious and we have to be smart about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any other comments about that? Any other agenda items that can't wait till the next time we meet?
No.
Don't think so.
Okay, so I just wanted to remind everybody that tomorrow night is an event that is not sponsored by the Select Board, but it is a candidate forum, and it will give you an opportunity to hear from the people that are running for Select Board, and that is going to be on channel 191, and I believe it is at, hang on a second, 6:30. And it's the link for the actual event, I believe, is on the web page. Am I correct about that, Ed?
Yes, it is. It'll be both live broadcast on Channel 91 and available via Zoom. But
From a Zoom
if you go on the homepage of the town website, I think it's the third link down that you can open the flyer on the event, and it gives you the link for if you want to join via Zoom.
Okay. And just a reminder that there will not be a Q&A. People will not be participating other than just listening, because there are a number of candidates and it's not going to be a debate format. It will be an opportunity for people to speak about priorities and things like that. So 6:30 tomorrow, the 25th of May. And then just a reminder that the election is June 22nd at Town Hall. And don't forget the town meeting, which is the 12th, with a rain date of the 13th at 9 a.m. Any other dates or anything we should talk about? Open time for the public. The Select Board reserves a portion of its meeting for the public. Would anybody like to speak? All right, hearing none, then I guess we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Tishman, aye.
Fowles eye.
And Groden, aye. Robert and Ed, thank you very much. Very much appreciate all you're doing. And we'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Yeah.